The first tip that I want to give you is to be aware. Maybe try some meditation, or if you just really have a hard time meditating, you have a hard time getting into that, ask a friend to help you assess yourself and figure out what is it that you're focused on as far as your goals and your dreams. Why haven't you met them yet? And what are your strengths and weaknesses around that? So you can be honest with yourself and just accept where in your life you have limited thinking patterns and where you can grow beyond that. So the first part of that is assessing and accepting it and recognizing that it's there. And then moving forward into changing your vocabulary and how you speak to that. So I think the quote says, your thoughts become your words, and then your words become your actions, and so on. So changing the way you speak to yourself, even in your head, even if you're not verbalizing it, can really change how you now move into the growth mindset. So I could say, well, I didn't hit my goal after working 5 shifts and I failed myself this week. Or I could say, I showed up 5 times this week and I learned some things. I learned that maybe if I would have prepared myself a little bit more in my sales training before I started those shifts, I wouldn't have missed an opportunity to close on that champagne room with that one customer that would have helped me meet my quota for the week. So it's not so much focusing on what you did wrong, but focusing on where you can open up and add more opportunities for yourself to grow into the next version of yourself that you're going to be. So replacing in your vocabulary failing with learning. Failing with learning. I no longer fail, I just had a learning opportunity. Other vocabulary changes that you can make are instead of challenges, calling them opportunities. So same thing, a challenge is this constant pressure that's pushing you down, it's defeating you. And sometimes challenges are good, especially when you're doing a physical activity. I really, I like weight training and things like that, and doing things like, mud runs and stuff like that, like those types of challenges. That's when that word really works well for you. But you don't always want to be the challenged person. That always puts you in sort of a handicap position. I am challenged. I don't have what it takes to be good at math. Versus, I really struggle with math, and this is an opportunity for me to get better at it. So I'm going to do something. I'm going to take action there. Other ones, dumb versus smart in another way. This came up recently too with a friend, that we both have a hard time, with math or doing word and number problems. That's an Achilles for me. And I've always thought that because of that I was dumb at math, but that's not true. It's just that I'm smart in other ways. I tend to not be the type of person that's going to sit in class and retain all the information that's spoken to me verbally, but I am the type of person that will learn something visually. So if it's supplemented with a graphic or a flow, a list, or a kinetic learner. So if I'm allowed to pick something up and play with it and figure out how it works, I never forget that. I'm not an auditory processor as much as I am visual kinetic learner, and that's okay. I'm smart in other ways. And we also have to recognize that not all humans are, I don't know a single person that masters everything. I know some people who look like they do, maybe they're pretty close to it, good for them, but I'm just gonna accept my reality that I'm a normal person and that there's gonna be some things that I'm just not as good at, but I have other things that I am good at. And I have the capacity to learn the things that I'm not good at in the way that I like to learn. So I'm going to pursue those things in that way. Other ways we can reframe our vocabulary and replace things is, if you've probably heard this term before, progress, not perfection. Perfection is an illusion. You'll never get there, because when you do get to your goal, guess what? You're going to be looking a little bit further out to the next thing, and that's really good. You should always be scaling yourself up to the next level of yourself. So focus on progress, not the perfection. Another one is effort over talent. Talent is also an illusion. Now, some of us are inherently born with certain gifts, and some of us are born to grow to be 6 feet tall and play in the NBA. But there's always effort that comes with that. I think Michael Jordan was cut from his high school football team, but then he moved on to become one of the best basketball players of all time. So even if you do have an inherent advantage, some physical capacity or mental capacity to do something, you're still going to have to work for it. I think this applies to people that tell themselves that, or people that are trying something and they don't have the talent to do it, to work for effort. And it also applies to the people that do have the talent, so that you don't get too comfortable. And remember that applying effort to it is just as good for you as it is for the person that doesn't have the talent. So bringing that back, the first tip is take some time to think about fixed versus growth mindset. Meditate on that, or ask a friend, ask them those questions. What do I talk about? What are my dreams? Why haven't I met them yet? What, in your opinion, what are my strengths and weaknesses? Meditate on that, ask them. And then come back to the places where you can recognize the fixed mindset hindering you and start replacing your vocabulary around it, right? So it goes back to that quote, what we